mic, Michael the Hassle.
At 2 years old, he already developed calluses on his fingertips from picking cotton, and by the time he was 4, he already had perfected his aim from using his dad's Colt 45 to pick off coyotes at a distance. At a young age, he was already Atlas, destined to care for a land that wasn't his own, plotted with soil with the same color and texture of his own skin. Even then, he knew his purpose, and whenever someone asked him what that purpose was, he'd answer them, "I'm rebuilding America." In 1942, the US government implemented the Bracero program that allowed thousands upon thousands of Central and South Americans to cross the Rio Grande to work the railways of Texas, the endless orchards of Colorado, and the rich valley fields of California. The young boy, whose hands have already become worn from labor, yet steady enough to stare down coyotes with a Colt 45, that young boy was one of the first to come rebuild America. That was until America told him and his father that had no further use for them. The young boy, now a young man, with calloused hands and a steady aim, witnessed his father beaten and stabbed in the heart of a cornfield. The cuts were so fatal, they forever scarred the young man's mind. That young man, now an old man, my grandfather, Manuel Reyes Hasso, a bracero, a campesino, his fingers calloused like the bark of oak trees. The veins in his palms are the roots that have broken ground, and his steady aim is now lost like fallen leaves. My grandfather has hands that held compassion for the land he calls home now. Hands that held newborn sons and held high in fists to the words of Cesar Chavez. Hands folded in prayer, praying in broken English to a God that only understood him. My grandfather will still slap me upside the head when I say, "God damn it." Even then, I still feel his hands scratching. I feel the scratch from his calloused fingertips across my jaw. A reminder of how, and even his hands still hold steady aim to land those blows. A reminder on how privileged I am now to know a man such as him. A man not who only rebuilt this country, but a man who rebuilt my faith and family.
Mr. Michael the Hassle. Judges! 9.2. A 9. An 8. 8.3.
And a 9.5 in the front.
9.5 for Mr. Hassle. You ready for the next poet? Yeah! Please welcome up to this mic, Mr. Robert Zenz. Give it up.
The hippocampus, which is to say the memory, demands his shine. After Angel Nafis. I ain't never been the worm inside the apple. What you know about a seahorse, homie? Not a damn thing, and we both know it. But what you know about not running into walls, though? You're welcome. Look, man, I just want my proper shine. That is what I deserve for how I guide you gentle, faithful, how I take you back to the correct vehicle each and every single time you park. Is that too much to ask, my man? For everything I do, I bring the light to pattern like Apollo, translate a jungle chessboard to a twitch, an instinct. I spent years tattooing language to your tongue, and I can't get a thank you? Still, I am this loyalist of sentinels, this narrowest of doors. You know I keep the wild world at bay? You know that every moment gotta pass through me? This life, it holds its breath and tiptoes through my body like a metal detector. Every day, I stonewall the tsunami in your name. I defoam this rabid ocean's teeth till all that trickles is a tranquil stream of conscience. Who you think librarians this madness? Who boxes, shelves, and stocks this endless warehouse steady as a phone book? Who filters all the garbage and still won't let you forget your sister's birthdays? Shit. I could tell you who it ain't. That clown all pump and bloody is a shotgun and he get a whole rib cage. He get pen and glory, and what's he ever done but ache, but long, but gush is slow and simple gush for everything the same. What's he ever given you but pain? Who takes away the pain? Who says the word and quiets every barking failure? Who sets fire to the broken photo album labeled love so you could breathe again? Who quarantined the sunshine in her laugh, shrouded the trauma in a fog so dense it disappeared? Who hold the keys to every god you think you worship? Who go on strike, obliterate your childhood, take your mother with it?
Give it up for Mr. Robert Zane. All right, judges.
9.5.
9.5. An 8.
A 9.
A 9 in the back.
9.4.
9.4.
And an 8.8.
And an 8.8 for Mr. Robert Zans. 3 poets left in the elimination round. Who's it gonna be next? Y'all ready for the next poet? Please welcome up a very strong contender, Mr. Oscar Sanchez. Give it up.
The title of this one is Mrs. Jones. I was trapped the day we first met and looked into your beautiful soft brown eyes, but not in the way that you might think. Because in my mind, as in my soul, a brokenness lay that I could not control. And darkness came to take a hold, enticing me to the curve of your frames, to the taste of your lips. But your kisses are a cage for weak men like me. I'm trapped, you see, in bars of passing beauty, locked with charm and deceit. I'm nothing more than your cage freak. And baby, anything you need, I will bring it to your feet. I was trapped the day I first held your hand, but not in the way that you might think. Day 1, we met with smiles from across the room. Day 2, we said our first hellos. Day 3, daydreams and fantasies. Day 4, a quick coffee that took all day. And day 5 was the day that I began to realize that my wife doesn't appreciate me anymore. I was trapped the day you got in my head, trusted the lies my brain was fed, but not in the way that you might think. Day 49, I stayed out too late. Day 63, I didn't go home at all. Day 78, my bags were packed for me. And now every day, my kids wonder when their dad will come home. I'm trapped, you see, but not in the way that you might think. No real bars, no real locks. You pulled me down with a forbidden chance, held me down with a deadly glance. You locked me in this seductive romance, and there's no escaping your lustful advance. With scratches up and down my back, I am your cage freak, and anything you want, baby, I will bring it to your feet. And you, my new love, are my grim reaper in beautiful disguise. Crimson lips, soft skin hips, and with that fatal touch, you hold my past, my present, and my future. My life has declined to this very point in time where fears incline and evil binds my very soul. I'm trapped, you see, with every kiss that holds me like a cage. But don't judge me, because everyone reaches for the devil in their own little way. I'm trapped, you see, doing the right things for the wrong woman. I'm trapped, you see, because you can be with someone but still feel lonely. I'm trapped, you see, saying goodbye when all I want to hear is stay. I'm trapped, you see, with a murderer and a lover. I'm trapped, you see, with someone new but with the same old brokenness. I'm trapped, you see, because brokenness can trick a man into thinking he is in love. And if you're not careful, brokenness will do the same to you.
Mr. Oscar Sanchez. All right, judges. We got a 9.
A 9, yeah.
In the front, we got a 9.4.
9.4.
9.5.
9.5. Okay.
We got a 9.5.
9.5.
And in the back, 9.5.
Oh, snap. Wow, already I can feel it heating up, man.
Yeah, and it's not just the lights.
I'm telling you, man. Y'all ready for the next poet? Oh, please welcome to this microphone, Mr. Gilbert S.
Hey folks, wrote this yesterday. New direction I'm going. His name was Mr. Smith, coffee in hand, book in the other, walked into that elementary school classroom, 37 students dominated by skin not of his own, said, "Children, today I want to know, what would you like to be when you grow up?" And a little boy raised his hand so fast that his fingers broke through the sound barrier. His bones all but flew from their sockets. His wrists shook with excitement, a desire to share a fragment that thought as developed as the brain it was formulated in. Mr. Smith, he cried, pick me, please." "Yes, you." He cleared his throat, stood up from his desk, and stuck his chest out proud. "I want to be a doctor." Child, look around you. Think of a more attainable goal. Aspire towards realistic expectations. That is a dream, and dreams are a luxury that only the rich can afford. Now, I must caution you that Mr. Smith is fictitious, a representation of a changing dynamic, but this ideal runs rampant through the veins of many educators, politicians, and parents. Children are expected to be hope in a glass bottle, not to face reality, but to be the change that we want to see in this world by unburdening Atlas and placing the world in their tiny little palms. Their job is to expect more than this world is capable of giving. That is their birthright, given onto a new generation from those who came before. Children should be taught to dream. Because dreams are the shoes we wear to walk the path of life that is all but paved in shattered glass. Dreams suckle on the breasts of expecting mothers, caress the callous hands of workers who wait patiently for that day they can finally cash their first pension check. Resides in the kisses between lovers, carries no bias between skin, sex, or economic standing. Was not governed by the laws of Jim Crow. It is the first vote cast by a suffragette, was the grass field on the other side of the barbed wire fence at Auschwitz. The food that Gandhi ate to stave off starvation, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of it bluntly. Every great man and woman that ever came to exist started with just a flicker of a notion, of a concept, of an idea that stemmed from a dream. If it faces oppression with a smile, crosses the line drawn in the sand, says no every time you tell it no, expects nothing but a forced march to its conclusion, because dreams are a flicker of light in a long dark tunnel. They are the only thing that makes us human. So I ask you tonight to join me in a revolution as we take back the world for the dreamers. Step 1. Lean back in your chairs. Close your eyes and let your mind wander. Drift off to the world of green grass fields and imagine yourself once again as a child. Step 2. Find yourself staring at an object in the distance. Take your tiny hands and reach until you cannot reach anymore. Step 3. When you open your eyes and face reality again, don't stop reaching.
Give it up one more time for Gilbert S. Judges, 9.2.
9.2.
9.5.
9.5.
9.5. Off to the side, we got a 10. And another 10.
Give it up one more time for the poet, Gilbert S. Representing Turlock proudly. We got one more. Man, I'm glad to see this cat doing his thing, you know? Representing Fresno. Are y'all ready for the next poet? Please welcome to this stage on Christmas, Mr. Mike Madrano.
Crossfires. 1. He tattooed the words, "fuck police," on the forehead to be exact. He got the tattoo in the community garden one night. He was drunk and it was his birthday, so the liquor went down with incredible ease. Earlier that day, Marcel planted herbs with names so poetic they were hard to pronounce. That is to say, basil became basil, and though its sweetness was easy culinary speak, You gotta remember, his homeboy practiced his craft without a license. Under the pot imperfection of the moon, they cracked jokes on each other's faces, mostly about the indefinite crumbling of their features. Ah, yes, they were on the meth. And even higher when Tony busted out the bee, thin white fingers marred by the oils of the streets, jabbing at rows of wanted criminals from the Crime Stoppers part of the paper. Tony and Marcel hooted and hollered while the newspaper played crispy and caffeinated hands. The F on Marcel's forehead wrinkled like a funky question mark as he and Tony guessed which ones were on the shit. 2. I asked the man, no, I ordered him, to put the knife down, to place it gently on fresh Fresno asphalt or I would shoot. He kept walking toward me. The whites of his eyes were not the whites of his eyes anymore. He spoke an incoherent mess, even though the tattoo on his forehead threatened me enough that I cocked my weapon. You see, this went in my incident report. Spotty, yes, but at least my chief touched up his fade before the evening news. Forget the neighbors who gathered by the alley on Maroa Street, he said. Forget they heard his gun pop in the middle of their walking. Forget the tiny blade that became a machete by the simple turn of a phrase. Forget the afternoon sun obscuring everything, even shadows, and the sunflowers climbing the wall of the tower community garden, witnessing bullets to the dome. Forget the poetry of my reporting, he said. His death was not worth the ink of your back page news. 3. My story is how deep you fold into yourself, hide and laugh in the garden crossfire. Watch me approach your nervous stance, your perfectly pressed uniform, stiff as a corpse at a wake. My friend, what frightens you most of all? The way I lean in like a date asking for a dance? How I extend for alms to cover the headstone of my body? Or maybe it is the bright noise right before the end that makes even the camphor tree shake in its jacket of leaves. 4. The silence was so loud you could hear the tomatoes settle like plump stars in the hour of dusk. Thank you.
Tales of Fresno with Mr. Michael Medrano. Give it up. All right, judges. Let's see those scores.
We have a 9.
A 9.
9.2.
9.2. 8.5.
9.4.
9.4.
And ending off with a 9.6.
9.6 from Mr. Michael Medrano, and he is our last poet in this competition. So now, while we take a moment to tally our final scores, I'd like to introduce one more poet for the night. You know him, you love him, he's the founder of the Beatdown. Please welcome up to this mic, Mr. Brian Medina.
Zigzag, like the letter Z, I couldn't comprehend in a dyslexic's turned around world. Back in 6th grade special ed class, my arm pulsating in rhythms of hip-hop backbeats, and I can't stop screaming for the life of me. The world turning a thick, gooey kind of slow motion. Back, time ticking back, off, loud, tick-tock, 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 a belt of wanting to black out from fresh new openings, left by the criminal crowbar, and shattered bones crack. Bones crunch, bend in unfamiliar places. A faint ripping sound can just be heard underneath the rise and fall of air and sound, leaving my mouth agape. And then I focus on my right arm and see blue neon, white streamers, fireworks, shades of my brown skin mixed with the cold gray. I see God, I see Allah, I see, fuck, my arm is broken. God damn, I see me lying on the ground, broken. The cold gray repeatedly hitting my arm, slamming down, leaving me busted, zigzag, like that letter Z. I'm gonna do a freestyle, fuck it. She was only 17. A little girl I seen walking along the avenue. Hot Fresno heat, hitting everybody in the forehead like a sledgehammer. And me, sitting along the sidewalk, sipping my tea in front of my favorite cafe. Not a care in the world. Her upright posture, her skinny legs and pointed toes with her nice fine shoes struck me. Her eyes, I can never forget, and my words cannot find the exact words to put them in the right spot in my dyslexic mind as I draw my chalkboard, invisible to the naked eye, but I see it clearly like the gods playing the worlds. She walks by, and I see a twinkle. I see a remembrance. I feel a tingle that, yeah, maybe I do know her somewhere. Maybe somewhere back in the past that I used to run the streets out in the midnight, clocking, looking at my watch, wondering when my mom is thinking, will I be home tonight? Wondering if I will be hanging out with the gangs tonight one more time, copping a cheap field from the cops who run me up against the sidewalk just because I walked across the street. Maybe she was driving in a car, passing me by, saying, yeah, I know that fool. But this is just a poetry freestyle, and I'm coming off the top of my lungs, hoping to find some heart, some beat, some rhythm within this words that I'm telling you right now as I look at me and I look at you, trying to tell the story of a girl that walked on by who was only 17, and that twinkle. Maybe, just maybe, a sister of hers that I had in my special ed classroom 5 years ago. Maybe she had cerebral palsy and couldn't quite get the words out of her mouth. Maybe she couldn't quite get to reach that star up above and say, God, please help me. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was that bitch down the street who cut me off. Maybe it was that one gal who left me for dead when I was in need. I was the Samaritan who went down, and God came by and said, another druggie. Again, this is just a poetry freestyle coming from the top of my head, hoping to find that of rhythms coming from the lungs down to the wicked toe. Maybe, just maybe, I knew her in a past life. Maybe we held hands along the busted cobblestone streets of Paris, where we drank terrible wine, and she danced the dance of 1,000 dances. Frida Kahlo in the art museums. Neruda reading his poems out loud from a corner bistro. Just maybe this didn't happen at all. And maybe these words are just some sort of Christmas gift to those who wanting a beat, to those who wanting a word, to those who wanting to touch a little something that just is out there but can't reach. A poetry freestyle. Christmas.
Mr. Brad Medina.
Did that sound come from there?
I could have sworn I heard music.
Me too. That's what I thought.
It's weird.
Like Christmas.
11.4 in the back. Look at that. Highest score of the night. You don't get to keep any of the money.
Oh,
All right. Are you guys ready for the winners?
sound right.
It was like,
Sounds
come on, y'all ready for the winners?
All right.
From the bottom to the top.
In a tie for third place, with the exact same score of 54.2 combined, we have Mr. Michael Hasso and Mr. Robert Zan. In second place,
Drum roll, please.
with a score of 55, Gilbert S. Give it up.
Drum roll, please.
And a score of 55.9. We have our first place winner,
Yes.
Mr. Oscar Sanchez.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say something. Just kind of took the stage. I'm not that good to do freestyle. I don't know. Am I supposed to do another one? I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Say whatever you want, man. It's yours for the moment.
I'm happy. Sorry, you guys.
As you can see, poetry pays.
Yeah, that's the first poet that won it said, I'm happy.
And isn't that the length of speech you want to hear in an award ceremony?
Man, oh man. Did you guys have a good time tonight? Let's give all the poets a round of applause. What a fantastic night.
So be sure to come back next month in the new year. Our New Year shows are always really hot. And the last thing I like to say, I repeat this a lot, but I think it's always a good thing to remind myself too. What you're seeing here is people's innermost thoughts. This is original work. This is not a cover band. These are people's original work coming up here on this stage and participating in this. And that's a special thing, because you get to see that, their innermost thoughts spilling out. And as much as it is tempting to want to stay home and play video games, watch TV, and do that stuff, you guys are here with us tonight out of all the things you could be doing.
Thank you.
And no matter what happens, if the power goes out, the TV networks shut down, the radio stops working, and EMS blows out the internet, we're always going to have this. The root of all communication, storytelling, poetry, writing, communicating with each other, face to face, not just on some social network, not on text. We're all in the room experiencing that. It's an important thing to keep alive, and I'm glad you're all here to participate in it.
We will be back next month, third Friday. If you like what you see tonight, please come back. Tell your friends, tell your mama, tell your fish that we will be doing up. We have a special guest. This is our 11th year and still going strong. Thank you for keep coming out. Thank you, writers, for making Fresno poetry what it is, which is special. Good night. God bless. Have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you next year.